Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
Hey, what's up, my woods people? I'm Tyler Jones, and this is the Backcountry mini-series from the Element Podcast. Casey, fill them in.
Since we are diving headfirst into the backcountry hunting this season, we decided to call in some help and talk to some experts that know how to crush it in the backcountry.
So make sure and subscribe, and if this is helpful, we'd love for you guys to give us a 5-star rating and an iTunes review.
Absolutely. Now let's get into it because I still have a lot of Mountain House flavors to try before September gets here. All right, on the show today, we've got Aron Snyder with Kifaru International. Aron, what's going on, dude?
Not too much. Well, that's a lie. A lot is going on, actually. It's Monday morning. I was in Oregon all weekend doing a seminar on backpack hunting, so I'm getting caught up now.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're appropriate to have on the show then if you just did a seminar on what we're going to talk about, so that's good. Is that something that you do just out of the goodness of your heart, or is it a good opportunity to go home, or what were you doing, man?
I generally try to not ever do them because I'm not very good at social environments with a lot of people. But no, Bowtech is a dealer for us now, and I'm from Oregon, so I was able to go home and see my mom, so that was good. But I mean, I don't mind doing seminars when I have time. Right now, it's super busy, but it was good. I did it with Phelps Game Calls, and he's a longtime friend, so it was a good deal.
Yeah, cool. That sounds like fun. I guess. A lot of people learned a lot of stuff. Y'all are two dudes that do a lot of elk hunting, and that's what we try to do. But we're kind of far from the mountains. We get out there as often as we can. So, but I do kind of like the Aron Snyder story. You know, I learned about you from a different podcast, and then when y'all started the Kifarucast, I was kind of excited just because I got to, it's a little bit more of. You get to kind of have a little bit more insight as to who you are and what you really do and stuff. And so can you tell the audience a little bit about, kind of how you grew up and kind of come from that blue-collar side of things?
Yeah. I grew up in a town of about 180 people in Oregon, right in the Cascade Mountain Range. It's a logging community. And I think my dad made a whopping $1,400 a month for a family of 4. So there was a lot of mushroom picking and weed whacking to afford school clothes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then I joined the Army when I was 17 or 18 young. And then I was in the Army for a few years and then got out and worked construction, commercial glass and ironworking, more commercial glass, basically high rises and curtain walls, things like that. And then, in the middle of that, I started doing a lot of, I was always in the field a lot or in the wilderness, so I started doing a lot of gear testing and found out a lot of, a lot of companies lie, basically. There's a lot of sales pitches and gimmicks, and there's just certain things that do work and that don't, and so I started kind of relaying what I was finding out on forums and things like that, and somewhere in the middle there, I tested out a Kifaru pack and met Patrick, the owner, and with a lot of twists and turns down the side now, several years down the road, I'm the president of the company. So did that by living in the woods too much with barely graduating high school. So there is hope for some of you out there.
Man, what an American story. Right?
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. That's good. I come from a construction background. That's still how I make my living, is I do a lot of remodeling, build some houses along the way and stuff. So I don't know. I think getting out and, busting your thumb a few times with a hammer really can kind of teach you a few things. What do you think that you kind of learned from that background that kind of helps you more in that business world today?
Just hard work, really. I mean, I hate to say the cliche, or whatever, but I mean, it's, the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. And I just try to keep going with that, I guess, just try to put as much work in as I can. And my main goal, surprisingly enough, is to get the hell out of the industry and go hunting and not have to be on social media and just live in the woods and go hunt all the time. So my goal is quite a bit different than a lot of the people you see on social media anymore. Like, I'm trying to not have an Instagram page and just go hunting.
Yeah,
but
that's
hard work.
That's why your captions are pretty short. I would assume, right?
Or non-existent.
Non-existent at all. It's kind of depressing, actually. Aron Snyder puts a bad at the bone picture up and doesn't put any words and gets like 7,000 likes on it or whatever. But that's good. No, that's cool, man. So, when do you think that you had, I don't know, you might not even be able to recount this because you just have done stuff like this for so long, but like, what was your first like true backcountry experience?
Oh, actually within a few months, when I was on a trail crew team when I was super young, where you hike all the wilderness trails where I'm from in Detroit Lake, Oregon. It's kind of by the PCT, or the Pacific Crest Trail, and all those wilderness trails in that area. We would go in and clean off the logs and branches and whatever for the people hiking. And that was really my first big one, where we did like a 7-day trip, 10 miles a day, all over the wilderness. And that's where it probably started the most, right there. Yeah, it's like 14.
Wow. Okay, that's
carrying a crosscut saw and an axe, little fat kid.
Golly, man, that's pretty tough work. So the government would hire 14-year-olds to do that back then?
Well, what it was is there's a youth conservation corps where they hire high school kids to clean all these outhouses and the state parks. Since the people at the Forest Service knew me and knew I was kind of an outdoorsy kid, I was making, to give you an idea, $3.05 was minimum wage. There was parameters we were supposed to probably follow for me at that age to not be running chainsaws and crosscut saws, but I don't think anybody followed them, and it made me a better person for it. It made me learn how to feel pain.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, it means a lot to be able to kind of have that kind of hard work in your life at such a important age. I see dudes all the time who didn't work in high school or whatever and go to college, and then they get thrown out into the world and they have to go get a job, and it's like they don't really know how to just put their nose down and just do something, and I think that it's pretty important. Like for me, I was 10 years old, and my first job was I got paid a penny a nail for every nail I picked up around, job sites or whatever, and might have made 35 cents.
Some new nails, throwing them in my used nail pot.
Well, my granddad rigged me up a magnet. My dad was kind of ticked about that. It kind of made things a little bit easier than what it was supposed to be, but that's what grandparents are for. They kind of make it easier on you. But no, that's good, man. That's cool. And that hard work stuff and just, I guess, getting after it early really kind of laid the groundwork for you to just kind of belong in the backcountry almost, and how many days a year do you think you spend kind of in the field?
Oh, man, I got my partner in crime, Frank, here. Frank, what 180, 200? Yeah, we're probably pushing 200 a year. Now, this isn't I've heard guys say that and they're just driving around in the woods. That's nice, right? That's full on in the wilderness or whatever.
Yeah.
We're in the woods in one way, shape, form, or fashion damn near every day, but where we're actually backpacking in almost nonstop from August through November, we're backpack hunting, and definitely the majority of part of May, June, July, we're scouting or backpack fishing. And then, a lot of times, throughout the winter, we're out there. We may not be camping, but Frank might be predator hunting. I went on some mountain lion hunts. So it's a lot, and in the middle, I would say, on average, we're dealing with anywhere from 20 to 50 animals on the ground, whether it be Frank putting them on the ground, me, or someone else. We're dealing with pretty well as of late with the stick bow in Alabama, which is not wilderness. I would say that we're probably shooting. I'd say we're killing probably 30 to 50 animals each. So you get a lot of experience behind that, which is cool.
Sure. So with that much time out there, man, I mean, your house, your home, everything you do is on your back, man. And so the pack is like got to be one of the chiefly important things that you guys are using. What are the first thing you're looking for in a pack? Like if you were to give a little advice for somebody who's looking to buy a pack and get into the wilderness thing a little bit.
I just make sure it fits is one, pack and boots. Those are the big ones. That's what I suggest, because you have both of those on all the time. Mm-hmm. And so, you get a pack that doesn't fit, I try to oversimplify this. If you have a size 12 foot and you're wearing a size 10 boot, you're probably not going to be happy. So get a pack that fits and is fitted for you. Mm-hmm. And then get the same thing with boots in a pack. Get the size that's applicable for what you're doing or what'll work. Some boots will work for 90% of the stuff. Some packs will work for 90% of the stuff, but you don't want to wear, insulated boots on an antelope hunt. You don't want to wear a day pack on a 10-day hunt. Mm-hmm. So you just want to make sure you have the right size pack for what's applicable for what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, as far as like, you see packs, or at least I've seen packs that have a ton of pockets and some that are pretty sleek. What's your perspective there on that?
Oh man, without getting myself in trouble, and Frank and I kind of had the same view. A lot of pockets are for guys, to me, that are gadget guys that aren't. I don't know very many people that backpack hunt a lot that use a lot of pockets. They do use some, of course, they're going to use some, but Frank and I might be towards the other end of the extreme where we're like 4 pockets at the most type of guys. Like, I need one big bag, and then I need a simple amount of pockets on the outside to hold butt wipe, gloves, beanie hat, headlamp, snacks, and a map. After that, I don't really need those pockets. Those pockets add weight. They add clutter. I just need to hold the primary stuff to keep me, functioning and happy. After that, the main bag to me is kind of like the pickup bed. I need a glove box. I need some stuff on the inside of the car, but in the back, I just want a big long bed to haul a lot of shit. I don't need a lot of compartmentalization in there. I just need it to haul a lot.
Right. So when you're okay, so going into like packing the bag a little bit, let's just kind of start kind of big, I guess, and like we're talking about this. Our idea came from this was because Casey drew a Gila tag. So you're looking at the southern end of the mountain range, the Rocky Mountain Range, essentially, I guess. So a hunt in late September there is going to be like packing for that is going to be a little different than packing for late September, Idaho or British Columbia or something like that. What are the main differences? Obviously, in the Gila, you probably don't have a very high chance of seeing a blizzard in late September, but you might somewhere else, right?
It's actually not. I think people overcomplicate it, and Frank and I do get to hunt everywhere, so what's going to change is maybe one of your layers, meaning your puffy might be a little bit thinner than somebody else's. And then your rain jacket, you might be able to go with a little bit more Spartan rain jacket. Shelter-wise, probably not going to be that much difference. You won't need gaiters where you might somewhere else, but 2 or 3 items is about it. Yeah. Not that much difference.
Yeah.
So a while ago, you were talking about, how it's really important to have a pack that fits. We're not really from out east, but, technically it's probably what you would call us as Easterners. We're Northeast Texas. But how does a guy understand what good pack fit looks like, and then in turn, get fitted for a pack when they don't live anywhere near where good packs are sold?
Well, I mean, we sell thousands a year, so by just generally well, let's give an example right now.
All right.
How tall are you?
I am 5'11" on a good day.
What's your pant length?
32.
All right, so your torso length is probably 18 and a half inches, so average. What's your waistline?
32.
All right, so you're skinny, so you got a small belt. The
Thanks.
curvature of
Appreciate
your back.
that.
No problem. The curvature of your back. Do you have like the standard white man butt, where if you don't wear a belt, your pants fall down?
I'm substandard at that, so yes, guarantee you.
So you've got with Kifaru, we have different bends to the stay to match your back profile, which we're about the only one. I think we are the only ones that do that. So you would have a flat back profile, so we would match that to you. The shoulder straps would be probably the short shoulder. Well, they definitely would be our short shoulder straps that matches the curvature to your smaller body frame. And then, you don't necessarily need a super tall frame, and that has to do with the load lifters on the angle of when you pull on these load lifters. It's not really lifting anything other than the shoulder straps off your shoulders to transfer the weight to your hip bone. So you get away with a 24-inch frame. You could use a 26 as well. And that's where I say pack fit. Is the belt fit right? Are the shoulder straps adjusted correctly? Is the load lifter angle correct? Is the placement of where the load lifter attaches to the shoulder strap correct? All of that it's comfort, keeps you in the field longer. And the more you can customize that, which obviously that's what we specialize in, pride ourselves in, is being able to customize each person as close as we can without being totally custom. I mean, it's pretty close, but some of it is, obviously the bag's not custom. You're choosing the bag, but the fit is what we specialize in.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So it's kind of, to condense what you just said, call y'all and you can pretty much, with your experience, just tell us what we need, and you're going to get pretty close on the first shot. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, usually I'd say, maybe 1 out of 100 might need some torquing, after you get it, so we're pretty dang good, getting it out, getting it done correct out of the gate.
Yeah, I got you. So, you're talking about belt fit and stuff like that. Man, I'm one of those guys, like, I just don't have hips at all. And I've heard, that's, when you really start putting a load on, you're trying to get weight on your hips. Well, I don't understand how you do that. To me, it just seems like it's so much more comfortable to try to put weight on my shoulders because that's where it rests. Is there a way to circumvent that, or is that about pack fit and I've never had one that fits correctly?
Yeah, you just never had one that fits correctly.
I got you. Yeah. Well, all right then. There you go. So,
well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, it's no different than if I went and grabbed a rifle from Walmart or something, and I don't know anything about, like, basically the bolt, or as far as when you engage the bolt to cock around in. When you get a custom rifle, they're going to check and see. I guess it's, Frank, is that called the stroke? I can't remember the name of it, but basically there's going to be a distance for the length of your body for the butt stock to be. There's going to be a distance you want that rifle scope to be away from your eye. Mm-hmm. Well, if I just grabbed one, I'm like, man, I scope myself all the time, or I'm kind of bunched up when I'm putting a round in. That's because I bought a generic gun off the, right off the shelf and threw a scope on it, rather than going to a custom gun where it's actually built for my body.
Yeah. So let's go into like how you put your pack together, essentially. Like how do you pack? A lot of guys, I'm sure, putting the sleeping bag at the bottom, but what does that system look like for you?
Well, everybody on that system should be the same, but my sleeping bag and pad and a few twists and turns aside, there may be some other lighter weight stuff down there, go at the bottom. Above that, I've usually got my shelter and my food. The heaviest part's going to be at the middle of my back. Kind of around that, I'm just filling space, whether it be with a puffy jacket or, my camera kit or, kill kit, whatever. That's going to go kind of around that. And then on the top, I'm going to have like my stove, my cook stove could go up there, my possibles pouch or survival kit, my med kit. Those things can go kind of around or on top of that. And it's what you're trying to get is the bulk of the weight in the middle of your back. That is what's vital. And then obviously common sense, what you need quickly needs to be either on the top of the pack or in the outer pockets.
Yeah, I got you. So you're a stove guy, right? You carry a stove pretty much everywhere?
Sometimes it depends, man. It depends on the water. If there's no water, there's no reason to bring a stove. So, it really depends on the situation. But when I have the option, I bring a stove.
Yeah, I got you. Are you just mountain house most of the time, or what does your food system look like?
I never eat Mountain House anymore. I eat a lot from like off grid. They make good stuff. I'll make my own a lot. You can buy brown rice, top ramen, and put olive oil tuna packets in there, and it's like the poor man's delight. You can dehydrate burger. You can make shepherd's pie yourself with Idahoan potatoes and dehydrate everything else. And just a mixture, really. I eat a lot of peanut butter. So I may have like a peanut butter, bacon, honey bagel sandwich, as one of my snacks during the day. But as far as the dinners, I try not to ever eat Mountain House just because there is a high sodium content. It's not very healthy. It's end up you like wiping a marker, right? When you go to the bathroom, it just never comes clean. That's another problem. So I try to keep my digestive system the same out there as it is back home.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's tough. I'm a peanut butter guy too. So have you ever hiked any of those Black Canyon trails?
Black Canyon, no.
In Gunnison? Well, we did that. I guess that's like my one and only backcountry experience. We did that a couple years back and went to the Black Canyon to Gunnison and had like an epic trout fishing trip down there. And I carried a whole, like the big tub of peanut butter down there with me and never even opened it. So, like, that's the kind of amateurs you're dealing with right here. And like just the dudes who just don't make smart choices, right? But, yeah, peanut butter is life, man. It's just the way it goes. But anyways, so – when you're talking about your pack earlier about, all the different stuff that fits and sizes and all that stuff. I've noticed that with y'all's packs, you kind of have like a 2-part system where there's the frame and then you buy the bag separately. Is that for a better fit, or is that so that you can kind of interchange different bags that go on the frame and kind of have different things that do different stuff?
Multiple different reasons. Actually, one is load hauling. A frame pack's going to haul more weight.
Yeah.
2 is going to be interchanging the bags. I mean, when you buy them at the same time, obviously we put them together for you. But yeah, if you want to just run the frame as a load hauler, if you want to run a day pack, a multi-day pack, those will all interchange. We have a lot of internal frame packs too, but for the most part, like the heavy load hauling obviously is the frame system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you get something that doesn't have that frame system, it's just not going to be as good of a load hauling pack, no matter who it's from.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously there's a giant craze for the meat shelf deal, so you can also use a meat shelf on there where you can put the meat between the frame and the bag.
Yeah. So you said giant craze, so are you not bodying all the way on that deal?
Fuck, I'm not bodying it anyway. I think it's stupid. Unless it's a day pack. With a day pack, it makes total sense. I mean, 100%. When you don't have enough room to put anything in the main bag, you got to use a shelf. But within reason, if you have, your pack, I mean, people ask all the time, well, how do you fit it in there? Well, I'm not reinventing the wheel, right? There's the middle third of the pack, the heaviest weight is going to be the meat. Well, if I packed in with my tent, inside the bag on the way in or food, well, I just take that out and I put the meat in there, and then the tent is now strapped to the outside of my bag. And if you're packing gear, depending upon what kind of shelter you have or food, a lot of guys will leave their food and hide it for coming back the next year. But, it doesn't take 65 pounds, 70 pounds of deboned meat, plus your gear. Let's say you've got 35 pounds of gear. You're hitting about the max anyone can carry out comfortably anyway for any distance. And so it's really not that big of a deal to get that weight in the middle of your back up against your back inside the bag. And we just put it in a dry sack.
Mm-hmm. I got you. So you're going to have just compression straps. Go ahead.
Well, when I say it's stupid, it's not always stupid. Sometimes it's needed. It's just, we put an animal down, and let's say you and I don't know, 3 of your buddies all have meat shelves, and Frank and I put it in the main bag, we'll be 25 minutes ahead of you down the trail at a minimum, because we'll just drop it in the main bag and go, where you've got to, with ours and any other system, you've got to open it up like a book, detach it, compress it, make sure everything's in line. It just takes a little bit longer. And again, we have meat shelves, they work. Well, it's just not something that when I say we, Frank or I really have ever, it never made sense for us to use with a larger pack. We've used it with day packs though, but with the larger bag.
Gotcha. So pretty much all the time you're just going to take your meat, whether it's in game bags or trash bags or whatever, and just put it in your big compartment, strap it up and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, so are you going to have are there compression straps that are running from your frame that just go all the way around the pack, and that's how that meat gets held kind of in the central part of that bag?
Yeah, exactly. When we design the bags, we obviously design them to hold everything, in the middle of the bag. So
I got you.
And you're just putting the meat in, and you said a dry bag, I guess, and keeping because I know a lot of guys, I guess their deal is they worry about getting blood all over their jackets and stuff inside.
Yep. Yeah, we just put it in a dry sack.
Gotcha.
I got you. What about as far as okay, so where we're going, I've hunted Colorado quite a bit, but still further south is going to be central western New Mexico. I mean, meat care and taking care of that stuff to where it doesn't spoil is going to kind of be a big deal. If we do pack it out on our backs, how many hours can you put a quarter in a pack like that and it be okay without having to let it, stop, pull it out, let it air out, let it cool, if that's even an option? Is there something as far as warm weather when you're packing something out, do you need to consider that?
Yeah, well, there's way more variables to it, but
sure.
if you've shot it and you can get it cooled off, and let it sit overnight, let it drip, and you get it cool. If you put it in that dry sack, it actually stays cool because the cold is just staying cold inside like a cooler.
Yeah.
If you put it in hot, it stays hot. So if you're deboning it and going straight off the mountain, you just got to haul ass because you didn't let it cool to begin with. So it's a problem no matter what you're doing. You need to get it out and in a cooler as fast as you humanly possible.
Yeah.
If you're by a creek, an ecothermal corridor, someplace where you can get it cool, the best thing as far as the taste of the meat isn't to pack it straight out. It's to let it drip, let the blood come out of it, let it cool off, and then pack it out after. So for us, a lot of times we're doing multiple species hunts. Once we get it cooled off and the blood drained out, everything's cool, we put it in that waterproof sack and submerge it in a creek. And then that's like a refrigerator, and we'll hunt another 5, 6, 7 days.
Yeah, well, I've seen people do the creek thing where they're submerged, but at least, hanging meat over or near a creek. And where we're going down there, I've been doing my internet research, whatever. You got to take that for what it's worth. But everybody talks about it just getting so hot during the day, and I'm thinking, well, I mean, yeah, you're still in the mountains though, and the water's going to be cold, right? So, and there's a decent amount of rivers and streams in the unit we're headed to. I'm just thinking, why could you not go and still use the same stuff that you do in western Colorado, just further south where the water's still going to be cold? I mean, even though if your day temperatures are up, 80, 85, it's still going to be cool down there on or in that creek, right?
Yeah, it should be, yeah. I mean, that water's coming from a cold source, so it's definitely going to be, significantly cooler than anything else. And there is times, guys will ask me, I shoot it and it's in this conditions and it's super hot and it's a no-win situation. It's like, well, get your ass out as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because that's the only option you got. And when that's the only option you got, be fit and get it out. Move. I mean, that's all you got.
Yeah, the be fit thing. So that's always kind of humorous. We do our best to stay fit, but just, man, being a flatlander, there's just so much you can do, right, to be ready for that mountain stuff or whatever. And I run a good bit, and I try to stay in shape. But, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of, I guess, separate from the backcountry stuff we're talking about. But, you do a lot of, I wouldn't say, I don't know, you're not like a fitness guy, but you're fit, and y'all do a lot of cardio training and stuff, it seems. Like, if you're talking to a guy like us who are kind of out east and just don't have that elevation or, terrain change to work with, like what can we be doing to prep the best for, a mountain hunt?
Yeah, I'd just say just backpack cardio is a big one. Climb as many hills as you can with a backpack on, and whether it be stadium, bleachers, hills outside, just going up and down. Work on the lateral movement as well to work on your ankles. So don't just go up and down. Also do side hills, and then just get used to having a pack on your back, because if it's a backpack hunt, it's going to be on there a bunch anyway. So get your hips ready for that and everything else.
Yeah.
I got you.
So kind of speaking of that, we're talking about being in shape, being heavy, possibly on your back. So like your boots affect a big part of your hunt probably through all this, and like I'm sure you feel the weight of a heavy pack through your feet eventually. So what is your boot setup? Is it boots? Is it trail runners? How do you usually like to do these things?
No, I wear closer to a mountaineering boot than anything really. Like I wear a stiff boot. Even elk hunting, I wear a stiff boot. My foot works better with that. So with the stiff boot, they are a little bit hotter sometimes. You could probably get away with not as stiff of a boot down there, but fit is key. You want to make sure you have a boot that doesn't leak and fits perfectly and is broken in. Some guys are going to like more flexible boots, some stiffer, and that's just totally dependent on, on each person.
Yeah.
I've got a pair of Scarpas that I really like. I mean, they're just comfortable, foot well and everything, but they're not all leather. The tongue is like some type of synthetic, and I noticed last year in Colorado, whenever it would rain, water would like catch in there in the laces area, and sooner or later would soak through. Is that you think that's like specifically something wrong with that boot, or some just that way?
No, probably just that boot. And the thing is, if it's synthetic there, if you're walking around, let's say in East Texas or whatever, you probably poked holes in the membrane.
Yeah.
And then eventually it just comes through with synthetic. You can treat that, and it'll actually put a pretty good barrier on it. Ahead of time. It depends on which Scarpa. Anytime you get that synthetic tongue, you're looking at more problems than if it was, leather.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure and treat it with a waterproof type of a treatment. But if it's just a super flexible boot, eventually Gore-Tex, inevitably within a year, is going to leak one way or another. Generally.
Yeah, I got you. Do you run Gators?
You guys probably won't need to, but I wear them when I need to. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, what's I was kind of figuring that just because I don't want to. That just seems like it would be hot down there. But like, when do you look at a terrain and say, I need Gators there?
When it's rainy.
Rainy. All right. Gotcha. That's probably not going to be an issue where we're at down there. Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be wearing. I mean, some guys wear these little scree Gators, which makes sense if you're wearing a lower cut boot where you can get debris in there. But if it's wet, wear Gators, and you probably don't want to wear them after that.
Yeah. So, a lot of guys, myself included, I have such a narrow foot, man. And kind of similar to the backpack situation for us, like I don't really know how to fit a boot for walking up a steep incline, because we don't live in hill country. And so, I
think you're probably overcomplicating this. You walk upstairs, it'll have the same principle behind it as far as with the boots. If you got a narrow foot, I'd say you probably want to put on a La Sportiva. That's one of the narrower boots on the market. And then when I say La Sportiva, in general, La Sportivas are narrow out of the, I don't know how many offerings they have. Mm-hmm. So you're not that far away from mountaineering stores. Try to get to a store that can try them, where you can try them. And they're generally going to have like a little 4 foot tall, like ramp with rocks on it.
Yep.
If you get on there and if you're like just popping your heels, like heel drops or calf drops that you would do at the gym, if you're feeling a lot of friction and pressure on that heel, don't buy that boot. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go climb a mountain to figure it out. It's just I'm more comfortable with it because I know the feel of crappy fitting from climbing a mountain. I know it well enough when I go try one on. Mm-hmm. So if you can go try one on and you feel heel pressure, like, oh, yeah, that doesn't seem right, don't buy that boot. And it's almost like a recurve. You put that boot on, you're going to probably know that is the boot for you. Yeah. And all you got to do is calf drops to feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just seems to me almost counterintuitive, but like you kind of, I feel like you want, like, I mean, obviously you want it. There's going to be points of contact on your heel, right? And so like, what is good, a point of contact that's good, and you know it's not going to slip and rub and everything, as opposed to like, oh, that's a pressure that is just too much and it's going to give me a hot spot.
The one that has a abnormal amount of pressure more than the others.
Yeah.
Again, you put on a glove, on your hand, and you're just wearing the glove, it's going to feel comfortable no matter what. Now pretend that there's leathering on the palm. So you put an axe in your hand and you squeeze the axe like you're going to start to swing it, and you can feel pressure where there's sewn in seams, mm-hmm. and you can feel that, like, let's say between your thumb and your index finger. Mm-hmm. Well, you're probably going to get a blister there once you start swinging. So that's kind of the same principle as if you put it on, there's going to be pressure, but when you're like, ooh, that's like a lot of pressure, I can feel that there, and it's like enough pressure. When I say enough, you won't be able to guess what's going to work its way out breaking in. If it's a lot of pressure, just figure it's probably not going to fit. And as far as the heel goes, if you're, doing the calf drop and you just feel this abnormal amount of pressure on the top of your heel cup when you're going, to calf dropping, that means your heel's slipping in there a bunch. That's probably not going to fit either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I got you. Yeah, I'm just really bad at stuff like that. I just don't pay attention to like uncomfortable parts of the things that are happening to my body. Like I get nicks and stuff like that, and I just don't even notice it sometimes. And I'm really bad at like understanding when I'm going to get sick and all these different things. So that's not something I'm good at, but I do know, like I've
get a few blisters the size of like silver dollars. You'll become good at it.
I'm just going to stop. It's not going to get that far. I'm just going to sit there for a while.
Yeah.
I've
had
terrible.
them, and that's kind of why I ask. I videoed a stone sheep hunt 2 years in a row in 16 and 17, and I didn't ever get bad. It didn't, but I definitely had hot spots and stuff, and so I just worried. Well, if I'm walking more than that, is it going to be an issue? So I definitely have worried about that. And I know like guys that they'll just, rub them until they're just bad, And so what does your first aid kit look like? Do you have anything for that kind of issue, or is it more towards major things?
You want pre-tape your heels with Leuko tape. It's Leuko. Uh-huh. It'll stay on there for 5 or 7 days. My med kit is probably the world's worst. I have super glue, Leuko tape, some drugs. That's probably all I got. Yeah. Duct tape. I don't really bring anything. It's too much.
Is that because of weight, or is it just like you don't want to fool with stuff that you aren't 100% on how to work it?
No, I'm very capable of. I mean, I can give you a tracheotomy if I wanted to.
Please don't.
Well, that's a scenario. What would you bring?
For me, I mean, it's probably going to be pretty minimalist like that, just because I'm not a first aid kind of guy. I mean, I can do a stent. I understand that there's a reason to probably tape something up one time if you're bleeding real bad. Then besides that, I mean, it's going to be pretty minimal duct tape and Band-Aids and some ibuprofen in case something does happen to where you're going to need to at least reduce some swelling. And then like I'm not going to bring a clot kit or anything like that. I just don't know what to do with that stuff. So.
Well, for what would you say the number one issue you're going to have down there potentially?
Rolled ankles for me.
Well, that's usually 2 or 3 on my list. Number one is you could have altitude sickness, which means you need drink water and electrolyte mix and drop down in altitude.
If I've never had that problem before, would that ever pop up again? I mean, I've done plenty of high altitude stuff.
It can pop up at any time.
Really?
So that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
Number two, you could have heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Yeah.
All right, well, cool you off and make you stop doing shit and give you fluids. Problem solved. Nothing needed. Just common sense. You cut yourself. Well, I mean, stitches for the most part are more for a beautification than anything to make it heal better. So super glue and duct tape and keep it clean, or Leukotape. Problem solved. Okay, you cut a finger off. There ain't a whole lot that I'm going to bring that is going to help. Now, if you use
You can't put the
QuikClot,
finger back on in the backcountry, right?
yeah, if you hit an artery, I mean, I'm going to put a tourniquet on you and pray to God you don't die. There's not a lot I can help you with. You know, if you need, let's say if you break an ankle, there's not anything I'm going to put in that kit that I can't just manufacture out of crap I've already got that's going to help you other than give you moral support as you limp your ass out, right? Maybe drugs, right? So I always have painkillers, but I'm trying to think, have we run into anything where we needed more than that? Yeah, I Havilon knife cuts, you know, glue it and tape it up. Yeah, man, I maybe I don't know, maybe this year I'll have a bad year and I'll carry more. It's just super glue, Leukotape, and some drugs seem to fix all problems.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot of things you can't fix with super glue. I got a buddy who runs a cycle shop, and he uses that stuff quite a bit. Hey, he probably wouldn't tell you that, but
Yeah. So what about, you know, you were talking about the heat exhaustion and the altitude sickness and water being kind of key in that. What does your water system look like? Are you carrying a bladder or Nalgene, or how does that work for you?
I have a Nalgene on my belt, and then I have a bladder, not with a hose in it, just a big bladder in my pack. And so I know if water's pretty sparse, I'll have filled up the bladder and then just transfer it into my Nalgene as I need to, you know, in the backcountry. And then electrolyte mix, you know, it's not just water. Water by itself is good, but if you're sweating out, you know, obviously salt and anyway, your electrolytes, you need to replenish those. So while you're drinking water, you need to have some kind of electrolyte mix mixed in there.
Yeah. Are you filtering all of that into your bladder at the time? Or are you filtering from bladder to Nalgene, or what are you doing there?
We use a Sterapin. So if I'm filling up the Nalgene as I'm hiking on throughout the day, we use the Sterapin to clean that. And then in the bladder, I fill that up, and I use Aqua Mira drops, MSR like Aqua tabs, and I throw those in there, shake it around, and then when I'm pouring it into my Nalgene, the water I had in the bladder is already purified. As I'm filling up the Nalgene in creeks, I just use a Sterapin. And Frank pretty much does the same thing.
Yeah. I've got a Sterapin and have used it quite a bit, but do you mess with carrying that little filter thing that they give you with it, or do you just roll straight, fill the bottle?
I just fill the bottle.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I just I don't know how many little squirmies I want in there with it. It's kind of always where it's like, I don't know. There's plenty of good clear creeks, but I can just imagine, especially if you go hunt in an arid environment, you know, what do you do, like, if you, like, are having to fill up out of a wallow and stuff like that? You just deal with it?
Yeah, and they only, it's not like the pump makes it not taste like elk piss.
Yeah.
It still tastes horrible. There is a one I used last year that had like a carbon deal in there that did help it taste better, but that filter plugged up pretty damn quick anyway. So I mean, if we do a wallow, we'll use drops and we'll use the Sterapin, but it still tastes like shit. But I mean, the chance of having to go through a wallow are slim. But when you do, I mean, it's just part of life, and you kind of just deal with it.
Yeah, it's kind of more just like something you have to do, and you try to not put yourself in that situation, I guess. I mean, how much?
You guys are from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Have you watched True Grit?
A few times, yeah.
All right. Well, remember when he says, I've lapped water from a hoof print and been happy to have it?
Yeah.
That's not you guys, huh?
No, I haven't had to do that yet. Try to keep a little bit of water around, you know. But, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of part of this thing is being mentally prepared to deal with backcountry scenarios. That's just something I haven't had to do, and I'm trying to make sure that, you know, all the training in the world is all good and shooting your bow is great, but if you just can't hack it, then it doesn't do you much good to go back there if you got to turn around. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm prepared to do all that kind of stuff, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I get it totally. I mean, and it's different. I just did a podcast with Barklow. He's a guy at Sitka, and he and I were talking about kind of, you get into a guy like he or I or Frank or some of these other guys that are desensitized.
Yeah.
Frank will be squishing mosquitoes and eating them while you're crying of what seems like super simple and fun to us is like crisis level for you because we've done it for so long.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Frank almost died when was that? 3 years ago? 2 years ago, Frank got pulmonary edema.
Oh, cool. Gosh.
And he came out, and then, last year I had cut my hand, badly, glued it back together, and had some other fungus growing on him. Frank, you didn't have any problems. No, Frank was a hunter. Frank was an ace last year, no issues. He was babying me. So, but part of it's just staying back there. And I mean, that's easy to say, but some of it's just mentally kind of having the wherewithal or the fortitude, I guess, not wherewithal, but the fortitude to just hack it out.
Yeah.
Cause you're going to be uncomfortable, and there's only so much crap you can bring. Cause bring too much crap, you won't even get there. So, a lot of it's just mentally kind of sucking it up, learning along the way, so your next trip isn't quite so bad.
Yeah, sure. And I don't know, for me, like, the issue on this that you're talking about is, like, it's kind of hard to say, and I'm not really directing this to you, Tyler, but, like, just the other person, right? Because you can do so much that you can do for yourself, but, like, making sure that the other person has done all these things to prepare for mental fortitude or whatever it might be, and that they're ready to go too, is like just the part that you can't really guarantee. So like
you can just not hunt with them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my suggestion.
Well, when you're learning how to do the backcountry thing, I guess you're just going to have to go through some folks until you find the right one. So, Tyler, be up to snuff. All right?
I mean, all serious. I mean, joking aside, like it is difficult to find. I bring Frank up obviously because one, he's sitting beside me, but two, we have the same moral compass. We have about the same physical ability. I'd say Frank's probably a little more uncanny than me when it comes to living solo. I don't know that Frank would ever come back unless he had to. Well, he's got a hot girlfriend now, so he might come back, but Frank can stay pretty much. Yeah, I mean, Frank can pretty much stay forever, right? Solo. And I can when I have to, but, he probably enjoys it a bit more than me, where after maybe 12, 14 days, I'm kind of pushing like, I should probably come off the mountain, and I could stay longer, but there's a difference between being mentally able to stay and wanting to stay, where you guys solo might only make it 3 days and you're just freaked, right? I'm not saying you guys, newer guys doing it.
Yeah.
And then you might get back there, and generally what's going to happen is you're going to either come back early or barely make it to the end, more of a mental grinder to say you did it. And you're going to be like, my God, that was horrible. The moment you're driving home and you stop at McDonald's, you're like, I can't wait to go again. 4 hours earlier, you couldn't do anything but to get off the mountain. And then eventually those kind of cross to where you don't run that issue anymore. You don't have it to where, it takes a lot for me to come other than boredom. If we're on a backpacking trip and it's scouting and I'm bored, I'm like, hey, let's go back and watch a movie. But when we're hunting, it takes a lot for me to come back.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And, I haven't done the backcountry thing, but if you hunt a lot, you're going to find some scenario where you have to grind it out and you have to just deal with things. And for me, we hunt a lot of whitetails, right? And, on day 6 where you got up at 4 and went to bed at 11 for 5 days straight and it's still 30 degrees outside and the wind is blowing, like, it stinks, and I hope that kind of thing translates over, and I feel like it will, as long as, or we kind of tell ourselves that, hey, we've done hard things before, and it's not going to be the end of the world here. And I don't know, earlier you were talking about how, like, you're going to end up bringing way too much crap that you don't need and this and that, and I feel like that's a place where I'm at on sleep systems, trying to figure out really what is the right way. There's these ultra minimalist guys who are just running a tarp and just laying on the ground. And then you got guys who we've talked to who are just, just big old burly guys who bring in a full-size tent and they just deal with it the whole time. And, y'all do make some sleep system stuff, but, for like a more arid or warmer season hunt, what do you think is really necessary for a guy to have in the backcountry?
Very little. In the case of where you're at, just because I'm familiar with that area, I'd probably be rolling in with just a tarp and a piece of Tyvek because it's hard in hell anyway. Bugs shouldn't be a problem. So, I'd probably just run a tarp and a piece of Tyvek. And, if you're worried about that, just get a real lightweight 3-season tent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. So I kind of thought the tarp thing, and I don't know. What's the point in having the thing over your head unless it dews or rains at night, right? Does it dew down there during the night too much?
It's not going to help that anyway. Wind, it's also a sunblock. So in the course of the day, whatever, you can hide under it and shade, right?
Yeah.
Helps for that. But yeah, just squalls coming through is a big thing, and you will get that. Just to keep your crap dry, and then sunshade if you're back at camp and laying under it,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just the whole fear of the unknown kind of thing or whatever, I'm not tied to a tent by any means, but I just kind of wondered about, I'm glad you said bugs aren't that big of a deal, just because, you're in the desert Southwest, you're just thinking about scorpions and all kinds of little creepy crawlies at night, and, but I don't know, I guess if you're on a sleeping pad, then it's not that big of a deal. You can just, you're up off the ground a little bit and a tarp will be fine.
Yeah, where you're at will be. There's spots in New Mexico and Arizona that, there's spiders like scorpions and scorpions mostly, but snakes, and they can be an issue where you might want to pack a tent or a bug net at the very least and do like a bug net bivvy and a tarp, or just depends on how light you want to go. If you don't mind carrying a little extra weight, then a 3-season tent's not a horrible option.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that if there's a place you're trying to cut some weight, is that the place that you'd look to first, is sleep systems?
Where you're going, yeah. If it was a different area, it certainly would not be my shelter. But where you're at, then that's probably one of the easier ones. And it's more of just an assessment of what's going on. So, for example, if Frank and I are heading in, 10 miles with these crazy elevation gains and losses, and we're just, sucking wind, getting in there from that, but there's a lot of water source, we may drop down to just aqua tabs. We may just carry an Nalgene all day. If it's going to be, weather dependent, whatever, we can skip on some of our clothing. We might either lighten up each layering piece of our layering system. Each one might be a lightweight, whether it be the fleece or the base layer or the rain gear or whatever. We'll lighten that up. Those are the things we kind of look at, depending. And where you're going is relatively easy, so it's not going to be any crisis going on, or shouldn't be.
I'm glad you said that, because honestly, man, I've kind of figured it's not going to be terrible. And then you just get on forums or whatever, and people are like, "Oh man, that country's rough." And it's like, man, really? Like, it's going to top out at like 9,500. Come on. So.
One man's rust, another man's joke. So keep that in mind when you're reading those. But the country back there can be rougher, but that doesn't mean that that's going to affect your gear. Yeah. At the very least, you might just go a little bit lighter weight. When I'm talking, terrain is the last thing I'm worried about for the most part. If it's steep here and there, you can get around that. Just go a little slower. You'll be fine. It's when you're dealing with, from the ground up, snakes, scorpions, spiders, all the way to the, up in the clouds, snow, rain, wind, lightning. You can't control the terrain other than pack a little bit lighter, but you can prep for all those other things.
Yeah, I got you. Cool. Well, so we don't want to take up too much more of your time, man. It's been great. You're just a wealth of knowledge as always. But I do feel like something we haven't really touched much on, and I think that you're really good at is kind of like the woodsmanship side of things. Do you have a couple of things maybe that like you would just tell somebody who's trying to maybe go out in the backcountry for the first couple of times, like things that they need to know that's not really gear stuff, but just like how to do stuff? What would be some things that you try to tell people?
Learn to read a map above and beyond the GPS, learn terrain association, topography, learn animal behavior, where the animals are going to I can look at a map and figure out where the animals are before I get there, learn that. Elk need to eat, sleep, drink, and have sex in September. Figure out where they're doing those things. You're probably going to kill one. Reading the weather's another one, but really reading the map would be the first one. Obviously there's some common sense involved with everything, but having common sense in your layering system, your sleep system. The other thing too, which you talked about, how many days are you guys going in?
Well, we're kind of trying to decide how we're going to do this hunt. Everything's on the table, right? But the original idea was to go in way back there for the whole 9 days of the season and actually get there a day early, that kind of thing. But I don't know, I'm kind of leaning more towards making like a 4-day loop kind of thing and coming back to the truck, replenishing, and going back out. And I'd be interested to know what you think about those, or if there's another scenario you think might work better.
Well, since you don't know you could make it, I wouldn't plan on the whole 10-day thing. That'll really screw your plans up if you hike all the way in there and you're sucking on titty in 3.
Yeah.
So I would do the 4 and 4, 5 and 4 thing, 4 nights, 5 days.
Yeah.
Make a loop, come back. If you got to run into town to get a burger and replenish grade or whatever, but then you're not packing as much weight. You're more effective on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be that far. Even if you were 10 miles in, well, 10 miles is pushing it. If you were 5 miles in, you can do 5 miles at, slow pace in 2 hours, probably closer to, an hour and a half. Not that long. You're not wasting that much time if you're fit enough. So you can come out and come back in pretty quickly, not burn that much time to grab more food. So I would suggest 2 smaller trips rather than 1 big one. If you had done it a lot, 1, you wouldn't be asking me the question, but 2, I'd be safer to, well, you know what I mean? You'd know what you're comfortable with. I didn't mean that in a negative way, but if you've done it a lot.
That's the whole reason we have you on, like we're trying to learn this stuff for sure.
I would say, I keep asking Frank, but so you get more than my opinion. How many emails do we get of guys? I was a high school or a college football player. I'm in great shape. Dude, I'm ready to do whatever it takes. I mean, I'm talking they write a book on how prepped they are.
Yeah.
And just totally puss out the first 3 and come out and they're like, and they have every excuse in the world. You know what I mean? I sprained my toe or my pinky. I don't know, make something up. When in reality, they just didn't want to be back there. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's not meant for everybody, but you do not want to base your entire plan off of the unknown of can you make it back there. Some guys I can't spell, right? I'm not going to go enter a spelling bee. I know that because I can't spell. So you don't know if you can backpack hunt long-term, long-distance, or are going to enjoy it. And part of it's having enjoyment when you're back there. So gambling everything on going in 10 miles is a big gamble where, 2 5-dayers or 2 4-nighters, whatever, not as big of a gamble, and the chance of you having more fun are a definite compared to a maybe.
This is a little bit different, but kind of along the same train of thought. On a hunt like this, would it be more advantageous to go back, set up a base camp, 5, 6, 7 miles back, whatever you feel like you can make it, and just hunt on like a radius out from camp every day and come back to that same camp? Or would you put camp on your back every day and just go where the elk take you?
Oh, that's what you said. The elk take you.
Yes.
Yeah, hell no, don't do that. Yeah, no, don't do that. I mean, that's like the most ineffective
Which one?
way
Which one?
To go to have everything on your back and go where the elk take you.
Yeah.
If you're going where the elk take you, that means they're going where you scared them to anyway. So more than most likely, like if we're hunting with our camp on our backs, then something has gone terribly wrong in the game plan, right? Like now you're going to have to move with your pack on, and you might as well be hunting while you do it.
Yeah.
But generally you want to go in and hunt 2, 3, 4, 5 days in one area and hunt around it. And then by then you've probably blown them out and then move again, or 2 days and then move again in 2 days. But, if you're careful and you're not getting winded, you can hunt pretty effectively from, say base camp. That sounds like you're living in the lap of luxury. You're coming back to your one-man shelter, right? And probably, your sleep system and a little bag hanging in the tree. There's not a lot coming back to.
Yeah, sure.
But you're your basically area of operation, is going to be by water, hopefully not by the elk to scare them off, where you're coming back to that spot and hunting, a mile or two around that spot.
Yeah, gotcha. Cool. Well, what's interesting about this whole thing we're doing is that everyone has a different take on that. And for my first thought was to do what you're talking about, and then I've had some guys tell me to do the just, chase them all night until it gets dark and throw up a tent every night. And I don't know, part of it sounds good, but just part of it sounds inefficient because you're going to waste time every morning and every evening when you could be hunting or at least sleeping, where you're setting up camp and trying to find a new place to put your sleeping pad or whatever. Go ahead.
It's not just that. You are so ineffective hunting with 45 pounds on your back.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to climb. You guys will look at each other and just say, shoot me, I'm done. Like, it sucks hunting with 45 pounds on your back. It does. And I don't know that, I don't think you've ever done that, have you? Backpack hunting with your wall of everything on your back every day? I think that got blown out of proportion with Cam back in the day, and not taking away from anything that's Cam. If he was doing that, more power to him.
Yeah.
But if you're having to do that, you are scaring the out of animals so bad, you're forced to hunt with what's on your back. And I make light of this. I make jokes about it. But truly, if you have a 45-pound load and you're trying to sneak in on an elk, you might, it just ain't happening. You're going to have to drop it, go back and get it. And so, don't do that. It won't pan out. Now, when you're moving from A to B, obviously you want to be cognizant of your surroundings and hunt your way to B. Mm-hmm. But after you hit B, drop all that crap and go to a day pack.
Yeah, I got you. So, you mentioned weight a while ago, and I know we're kind of wrapping up, but I really, it's kind of the broad subject here, but what's feasible on, say, you're going to do the 5-day thing? Like, what are you looking at hauling in on your back?
You should, on average, some guys are going to be less or more, but on average, 40 pounds. You can probably get her down to 35 pretty easily for 4 or 5 days. Depends on how much you eat, what shelter you've got. But if you're over 40, you really need to start assessing what the hell you're putting in that pack.
We're 30, man. We're good to go. We're fine. We're young. No big deal. So, I'm kidding. But no, and honestly, okay, here's something that you talked about a while ago a little bit, like with the whole, I was a high school athlete, blah, blah, blah. Like, Tyler and I, both our mindset is like, man, I'll tough out a few extra pounds if it helps me be comfortable. Is that an okay mindset to have?
It depends on what it is. I'm totally of that mindset.
Yeah.
But it depends on what it is. If it makes sense, meaning, I don't want to have a tarp, I want to have a shelter. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. I want to eat a little bit more food. That makes sense. I want to change my pants 3 times. That does not make sense.
Yeah.
I want a little bit more comfortable pack. And out of the options, this is the one we get, hey, your competitor's pack's 4 ounces lighter. That doesn't really make sense, if the other pack is more comfortable.
What they do.
So you get, but if you're, or your stove, I want to be safe and bring 2 canisters. Well, one guy can take one can be the other to make sure you can make coffee and food every night. Mm-hmm. But, bringing in a stove that weighs 2 pounds, that doesn't make sense. So if it makes sense, carry an extra, like if you worry about sleep, carry a thicker sleeping pad. If you sleep on that, better. Carry a bigger one because sleep is vital.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Cool. Well, Aaron, thanks so much for all the knowledge, dude. I can't tell you how much it's helped, and I really appreciate the frank way you put things. No pun intended there with your compadre. But if people want to learn, do what?
No, I yelled at Frank. I went, Frank.
If people want to learn more about Kifaru, where would we need to send them?
Oh, you can check it out. Kifaru.net is the website, Kifaru. Instagram's Kifaru_INTL. And then Frank is Frank Peralta. If you want to check Frank out, I'm Aron Snyder, 1A. And we have Kifarucast, which is our own podcast, which is Kifarucast.
You can spell. You said you couldn't spell a while ago.
That's what I was thinking.
No, I said I would enter a spelling bee. I can spell
okay.
4-letter.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good. Do we find Frank's profile on Tinder, or where do we find Frank at?
Frank's not. He's off all that. He's been saved.
Oh, all right, man. Frank is new man, so that's good. So, anyways, cool, dude. We'll link all that stuff in the show notes down below. Go check out Kifaru for some legit packs, shelters, and I mean, what else are y'all guys offer nowadays? You got some apparel stuff too, or something, right?
We've had the jackets forever, but synthetic jackets, pants, sleeping bags, survival blankets, multitude of pockets, teepees, tarps, stoves. Like pullouts. We have different ditty bags. Basically,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of those, game bags. All kinds of stuff.
I just laugh because Tyler's a pockety guy. He does not like the idea of minimalist packs. He likes the little things to shove things and lose them all the time.
I guarantee, go with Frank and I on 2 to 3 trips. You will never have a multitude of pockets again, because you're like, why am I carrying all this? This makes no sense.
No, I'm just semi-organized, man. I like the thought of having 2 or 3 pockets or pouches to have, like my fire starter or whatever it might be, and
Oh, that makes total sense. We do that. We have these little pullouts, and we'll have our, basically I'll have a med kit. And anyway, we do the same kind of thing as far as that goes.
Yeah.
We do get some guys that want a pocket for their toothbrush or want a pocket for everything. I'm like, dude, God, it's a lot of pockets, man.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes up for a lot of weight. So, I don't know. For me, I just lose things if I shove things in too many holes. So I need a lot less area for that. But anyways, dude,
That's
thanks so much. Yeah. Oh, no.
Walked right into that one.
Oh, no. As soon as I said it, I was like, this is not going to go well. Anyways, dude, thanks so much for the time today, Aaron. Really appreciate it, man. And can't wait to see how y'all season goes this year. Y'all are always getting out there and not only pushing it hard, but actually killing things. And that makes for some really entertaining, just observance from afar, I guess you'd say. So thanks, man.
Yeah, well, good luck to you guys. Keep us posted. Try not to carry too much crap or die of hypothermia, and hopefully you don't need a big med kit, because I'm going to feel horrible.
Yeah,
compound fracture. Well, Snyder said we don't need anything, so I'll just walk out on this bone. It'll be fine. So, anyways, thanks,
all right,
dude.
well, you guys take it easy.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll see
Appreciate
you.
it.
see ya.
Bye.
Man, that was some killer info. If you found this interview helpful, be sure and leave us a review below and comment what you thought was the most helpful tip from this episode.
For sure. Make sure you also follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and also subscribe on YouTube so you can see how these hunts turn out.
Remember, this is your element.
Live in it. Been waiting my whole life for that.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.